The diner door flew open with such force the cowbell above it shattered against the frame. The little girl stumbled inside, barefoot on broken glass, her yellow sundress torn at the shoulder and streaked with dirt. Her breath came in ragged gasps, eyes wide with terror that looked too old for her small face. "Please," she whispered, then louder, desperate. "Please, someone, he's coming." The lunch rush had just ended. Only 5 people remained in the roadside diner off Route 9. Betty, the owner, wiping down tables with methodical precision. 2 truckers nursing their 3rd cups of coffee, and 3 bikers in the corner booth, their leather vests marking them as members of the Iron Riders MC. Everything stopped. The head of the group, a man they called Hawk, set down his fork slowly. His face was weathered by sun and road, eyes sharp despite 50-some years of hard living. Beside him sat Jonesy, built like a refrigerator with a gray beard that reached his chest. The third, a younger man named Cruz, had scars running down his forearm from a wreck 2 years back. The girl's eyes darted between them all, then landed on the bikers. Something in her expression shifted. Not relief exactly, but recognition, like she'd found what she was looking for. "Miss," Betty started, moving toward her. "Are you—" The girl shook her head violently. "He's coming. Right now, please." Hawk stood, his chair scraping against the linoleum. His voice came low, calm, the kind of steady that makes panicked people breathe again. "Who's coming?" "Mr. Garrett," she said, voice breaking. He said nobody would believe me, that I'm just making things up." The door opened again. A man stepped inside, casual, controlled. He wore khakis and a polo shirt, the kind of clean-cut appearance that screamed respectability. His smile was practiced, apologetic. Salt and pepper hair perfectly styled, wedding ring catching the fluorescent light. "There you are, Emma," he said, relief coating his words like honey. "Sweetheart, you had me so worried." The girl, Emma, pressed herself against the counter, shaking her head. "No, no, no, no." The man's eyes swept the room, landing on each person briefly before settling on Betty. "I'm so sorry for the disturbance. My daughter gets confused sometimes. She has episodes." Hawk didn't move, but his presence seemed to expand, filling the space. "That right?" The man, Garrett, turned to him, extending a hand. "Richard Garrett. I'm a counselor at Riverside Elementary. Emma's been under my care at the school. She has some behavioral issues, poor thing. Runs off when she gets overwhelmed." Nobody shook his hand. Jonesy shifted in the booth, his massive frame suddenly alert. Cruz's fingers drummed once against the table, then went still. Emma's voice came out barely above a whisper, but in the silence, it carried. "He's lying." Garrett's smile tightened. "Emma, please, we've talked about this. Making up stories doesn't help anyone." Betty looked between them, uncertainty clouding her features. "Sir, maybe we should—" "Call the school," Emma said suddenly, urgently. "Call Principal Davies. She knows me. She knows I don't lie." Garrett laughed, but something in it rang hollow. Of course. Though the school day ended hours ago. Principal Davies has likely gone home by now." He took a step forward. "Come on, sweetheart. Your parents are worried sick." "My parents are in Seattle," Emma said, her voice steadier now. "At my grandma's funeral. That's why you picked today." The air in the diner changed. Subtle, but undeniable. Hawk's eyes narrowed. "Picked today for what?" Garrett's smile never wavered. "Look, I appreciate your concern, but this is a family matter." "I'm not his family," Emma interrupted. "I'm not anyone's family right now, that's the whole point." She looked at Hawk, and her next words came fast, desperate. "He's been watching me all year. Since my parents started working late. He offers to drive kids home. Takes the ones nobody's watching. Her voice cracked. He took Sarah Martinez 3 weeks ago. She didn't come back to school. Everyone said she moved, but she didn't. I saw her backpack in his car. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Garrett's expression shifted, just for a second. The mask slipped. What showed underneath was cold, calculating. Then it snapped back into place. This is ridiculous. Emma, you're getting yourself into serious trouble with these accusations. Cruz stood, blocking the door. Not threatening, just present. Jonesy rose too, his voice like gravel. Seems like the kid's pretty specific for someone who's just confused. Garrett's jaw tightened. I don't appreciate what you're insinuating. I'm a respected educator. I've worked with troubled children for 15 years. Then you won't mind us calling that principal, Hawk said. What was the name? Davies. It's after hours. So we'll call her Cell. Hawk's voice remained calm, but his hand had moved to his belt. Not to a weapon. He wasn't carrying one. Just a position of readiness. Betty, you got your phone? Betty was already pulling it out, hands shaking slightly. What's the school's name, honey? Riverside Elementary, Emma said. Please hurry. Garrett's composure cracked further. This is harassment. I could have you all arrested for interfering with a guardian's rights. Guardian? Cruz spoke for the first time, his accent slight but clear. Thought you said you were a counselor. Those are different things. The man's eyes flickered between the 3 bikers, calculating odds. His hand moved toward his pocket. Hawk moved faster. Not violent, just intercepting. His hand caught Garrett's wrist. Let's keep our hands where everyone can see them. Garrett tried to pull away. Get your hands off me. This is assault. Jonesy was there suddenly, his bulk making the space feel smaller. Funny thing is, you haven't shown any ID, haven't proven who you are. Kid says she's not yours. Seems like we got ourselves a situation. Betty's voice came from behind the counter. Hello? Yes, I'm looking for Principal Davies. It's urgent. It's about one of your students, Emma. She paused, listening. Her face went white. She is? Since when? Another pause. I see. Yes. Yes, I'll hold. Emma's voice was barely audible. What did she say? Betty covered the receiver. Principal Davies filed a missing child report this morning. When Emma didn't show up for school and they couldn't reach her parents, they called the emergency contact. The counselor, Mr. Garrett, said he'd drive by her house to check on her. The room went dead silent. Garrett's expression transformed. The practiced warmth evaporated, leaving something colder, harder. You people have no idea what you're doing. Pretty sure we do, Hawk said quietly. His grip hadn't loosened. Betty, tell the principal to call the police. Tell them we've got Emma and she's safe. Tell them to hurry. Already doing it. Betty's voice shook but held firm. Garrett smiled then, and it was nothing like the expression he'd worn before. This one was cruel, empty. You think this matters? Think one little girl's word against mine means anything? I'm a pillar of this community. I counsel children. I sit on the school board. And you? He looked at the bikers with open disdain. You're nobody. Criminals, probably. You think anyone's going to believe you over me? Hawk's voice dropped lower, colder. Don't need them to believe me. Need them to believe her. And need them to look close enough to find what you've been hiding. Something flickered in Garrett's eyes. Fear, maybe. Or calculation. Emma spoke again, her voice small but clear. He has a storage unit. Number 42 at the facility by the highway. He doesn't know I saw the key. It fell out of his pocket during art class. I memorized the number because... Her voice broke. Because Sarah used to be my friend. The confession hung in the air like smoke. One of the truckers moved suddenly, his coffee forgotten. "I'm blocking the parking lot. Ain't nobody leaving till the cops show." The second trucker nodded. "I'll help." Garrett lunged then, surprising them with his speed. He broke Hawk's grip, shoving Emma backward. She stumbled, hitting the counter hard. But Cruz was there, catching her before she fell. Garrett ran for the door. He made it 3 steps before Jonesy's arm clotheslined him. The man went down hard, air knocked from his lungs. Hawk was on him immediately, knee in his back, arms pulled behind him. "Don't move," Hawk said. No anger in his voice, just certainty. Garrett thrashed, shouting, "This is assault. I'll sue every one of you. You have no right—" "Right or wrong," Jonesy rumbled. "You ain't going nowhere." Betty's voice cut through. "Police are 2 minutes out. They're sending multiple units." Emma stood frozen, Cruz's hand still steadying her shoulder. Tears finally came, silent, streaming down her face. Not from fear now, from something breaking loose inside. "You did good, kid," Cruz said quietly. "Real good." "He said nobody would believe me," she whispered. "He said I was nobody, that my parents left me so it didn't matter." Hawk looked back at her, still pinning Garrett to the floor. "You were wrong about one thing." Emma blinked at him through tears. "You said you're not anyone's family right now." His voice softened, just slightly. "Road takes care of its own. Has since before you were born. You ran to us for help. That makes you ours to protect. Nobody touches you while we're breathing." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Garrett had gone still, face pressed against the linoleum, breathing hard. When he spoke, his voice was barely audible. "You don't understand. There are others. People who will—" "Then they can come find us," Jonesy said. His tone carried no bravado, just statement of fact. "We'll be waiting." The police arrived in a storm of lights and sound. 4 cars, 2 detective units, officers flooding the diner with procedures and questions. But through it all, the bikers stayed close to Emma, not speaking for her, not interfering with the investigation, just present. A wall of leather and steel between a scared child and a world that had failed her. If you believe in the power of observation, in trusting your instincts, and in the courage it takes to speak up when something feels wrong, then pause for a moment. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to Biker Path. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from today, because this story will remind you that heroes come in all sizes, and sometimes the smallest voices carry the most important messages. Detective Sarah Morrison took Emma's statement gently, professionally. Emma's voice strengthened as she talked, details pouring out that she'd held inside for months. The way Garrett had isolated certain students, how he'd volunteered for after-school programs, offered rides, built trust. How he'd made her feel like speaking up would only cause trouble, that adults never believed kids like her. "Sarah Martinez," Emma said again, insistent. "Storage Unit 42, please, you have to check. She might still—" Morrison nodded, already on her radio. "We're sending units now." An hour later, when they found the storage unit and broke the lock, they found more than they'd prepared for. Not just evidence. Sarah Martinez, alive, dehydrated and traumatized, but breathing. And documentation of others. Names, locations, a network that stretched beyond one man, beyond one town. The scope of it made the news vans arrive by sunset. Through it all, the bikers stayed. They gave their statements, answered questions, endured the skeptical looks from some officers who saw the vests and made assumptions. But Morrison knew better. She'd been on the force long enough to know that heroism didn't care about appearance. When Emma's parents finally arrived, having caught the first flight back from Seattle, Her mother collapsed to her knees in the diner parking lot, holding her daughter like she'd never let go. Her father stood behind them, tears streaming down his face, unable to speak. Emma pulled back just enough to point at the bikers. "They saved me. He was right there, and they didn't let him take me." Her father approached Hawk, hand extended, voice thick. "Thank you. God, thank you. If you hadn't—" Hawk shook his hand once, firm. "Your daughter saved herself. She's the one who spoke up, who remembered details, who was brave enough to run. We just stood in the way." "Still," Emma's mother said, wiping her eyes. "You stood. When you could have looked away, you stood." Jonesy shifted uncomfortably, not used to gratitude. "What else were we going to do?" Cruz smiled slightly. "It's what we do. Road's got its own code." As the sun set behind the diner, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Detective Morrison approached the bikers one more time. "Storage unit had evidence of 17 victims," she said quietly. 17. Some as far back as 5 years. Without Emma's testimony, without you keeping him here. She didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. Hawk nodded once, silent. "You know the defense attorney's going to try to paint you as the aggressors," Morrison continued. "Garrett's already claiming intimidation, false imprisonment." "Let him claim what he wants," Jonesy said. "Truth is truth." Morrison smiled grimly. Yeah, it is. And we've got diner security footage that tells the whole story, plus testimony from 6 witnesses. He's done." The bikers mounted their motorcycles as darkness fell. Emma stood with her parents, wrapped in her mother's arms, watching them prepare to leave. "Wait," she called out. They paused. She ran over, small and quick, and pressed something into Hawk's hand. A drawing, done on the back of a diner napkin. 3 motorcycles, 3 riders, and 1 small figure standing between them and a shadow. Above it, in careful letters, "Heroes." Hawk looked at it for a long moment, then carefully folded it and tucked it into his vest pocket. "You keep being brave, Emma. World needs more people like you." "Will I see you again?" she asked. He smiled, the expression softening his weathered face. "Road's long, kid. Crosses paths more than you'd think." The engines roared to life, deep and powerful. As they pulled onto the highway, Cruz looked back once at the diner, now blazing with lights, still full of people and purpose and justice finally being served. "You think she'll be okay?" he asked over the comm. "She spoke up when it mattered most," Hawk replied. "That kind of strength doesn't just disappear. Yeah, she'll be okay." Jonesy rumbled his agreement. "Better than okay. Kid's got fire." They rode into the night, 3 shadows against the darkening sky, no destination in mind, just following the white lines that stretched endlessly forward. Behind them, the diner grew smaller, but the weight of what had happened there stayed with them. Not heavy, purposeful. If this story has touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Bike Diaries. We bring you stories that prove heroism comes in all forms, that courage isn't measured by size or age, and that sometimes the smallest voices carry the most important messages. Tell us in the comments, have you ever noticed something important that others missed? Your story might inspire someone else. Months later, Hawk received a letter. The postmark was local, the handwriting careful and deliberate. Inside, a photograph. Emma, standing between her parents at a community event. She was holding an award, the principal's Medal for Courage. Her smile was real, reaching her eyes, the kind of expression that belonged to a kid who'd been given her childhood back. There was a note tucked behind the photo. "Dear Hawk, Jonesy, and Cruz. Because of what happened, they investigated the whole school district. They found 2 more people like Mr. Garrett. They're all going to prison for a really long time. Detective Morrison said I helped save 23 kids by speaking up. My parents got me a dog. Her name is Harley. Mom said I could pick any name I wanted. Thank you for standing when you could have sat. Thank you for listening when you could have ignored me. Thank you for believing me when he said nobody would. I'm going to be brave every day, just like you taught me. Your friend, Emma. P.S. I'm learning to ride a bicycle. Maybe someday I'll get a motorcycle too. Hawk read the letter twice, then passed it to Jonesy and Cruz. They sat in their usual booth at a different diner, in a different town, on a different stretch of endless highway. But some things stayed constant. The coffee, the road, the code. Kid's doing good, Cruz said, handing the letter back. Better than good, Jonesy agreed. Hawk carefully refolded the letter and tucked it into his vest, right next to the napkin drawing. Road provided when she needed it. That's all that matters. Outside, their motorcycles waited, chrome gleaming in the afternoon sun. The highway stretched in both directions, endless possibility, endless miles. Somewhere along its length, someone else might need help. Someone else might run to them, desperate and afraid. And when that moment came, they'd be ready. Because that's what the road did. It brought the lost to those who wouldn't turn away. It connected strangers in moments of crisis. It created families from nothing but need and courage and the simple act of standing up. They paid their bill, left a generous tip, and walked out into the sunlight. The engines roared to life, a sound that spoke of freedom and purpose in equal measure. As they pulled onto the highway, Hawk thought about Emma's last line. Maybe someday she would ride. Maybe she'd find her own road, her own code, her own moments where standing up mattered more than staying safe. The thought made him smile. "Where to, boss?" Cruz asked over the comm. Hawk looked at the horizon, where the road met the sky in an endless line. Forward. Always forward. And so they rode, 3 riders against the vastness, carrying with them the weight of one child's courage and the reminder that heroism wasn't about size or strength or fearlessness. It was about showing up, about standing between the vulnerable and those who do them harm, about believing the unbelievable and protecting the powerless. The road had no end, but every mile mattered. Every moment of presence, of awareness, of willingness to act when action was needed. Those were the moments that changed lives. That saved lives. Emma had reminded them of that. A small girl with bare feet and a torn yellow dress, running into a diner with nothing but desperation and hope. She'd chosen them, trusted them, believed they'd stand when she needed someone to stand. And they had. The miles stretched ahead, full of unknown tomorrows. But for now, in this moment, 3 riders moved through the world carrying proof that heroes came in all sizes, that courage could be found in the smallest hearts, and that sometimes the most important thing a person could do was simply refuse to look away. The road called. They answered. And somewhere behind them, a little girl named Emma was learning to be brave every single day. Thank you for watching. If this story reminded you to trust your instincts, to speak up when something feels wrong, and to never underestimate the power of paying attention, please share it. Subscribe to Bike Diaries for more stories that prove heroes are everywhere. Courage comes in all forms, and sometimes the smallest person in the room has the biggest impact. Tell us in the comments. What would you have done in Emma's place?